Let's see. Yeah.
I guess to play our
Oh, hey,
intro
Laura.
stuff, remember?
Intro stuff.
You remember?
I don't remember.
The intro video with the funky beat.
I'm skipping it.
Going straight into the episode, I see.
Straight in, baby.
Mm-hmm.
Knuck if you but. Hello, everybody that's in the live chat and watching us live. Thank you so much for joining us
Mm-hmm.
early on this Sunday Eve. We love seeing y'all here.
We do.
And
I really do.
I'm excited. I'm excited to Knuck because we but
Mm-hmm. In the truck. This is part deux. So
aren't due.
part deux.
Do we have
Part
any
deux.
do we do we have any announcements to the folks that are watching us live right now? That
The
the
only
exclusive
announcements we
announcements?
have is we are sorry for it being so long since our last episode. We've been real busy. Stuff in life has come up for both of us, so we've been trying to get things done. But on the beer, booze, and boogeyman front, we have an episode coming out. That would be July 5th. And July 5th at 7:30 p.m. Eastern. It is a cryptid episode. And if you haven't seen online, go vote for your favorite cryptids for pretty much, any topic we choose. That makes sense. And
What
so, yeah,
was
you can go at
what was the most recent?
ghost.beer.
What was the most recent
Today's
cryptid? Yeah.
what did I choose for today?
I think it was celebrity
Today's
lookalikes.
celebrity lookalikes. It was the Mongolian worm, right? Mongolian worm versus what was the other one?
Hide behind? Was it the hide behind? No, we did
uh
so it's all yearbook, school yearbook superlatives.
mhm,
It's most likely to get arrested, most likely to become
yeah.
president, class clown, leader of the drama club, and um we're pitting cryptids against each other. There's like 36 or 32, I think, total.
Yep.
We went through and made embarrassing high school photos of every single cryptid. And so it's like
Mhm.
Bigfoot looking geeky as hell as like you know, a junior in high school with braces or with like a full head retainer and like glasses and just being like, and just
Yeah.
all of
Perfect.
that. I think the Mothman was in like a Metallica shirt.
Oh
You
yeah, that
know,
was good. Yeah, that was
like,
good.
yeah. It's a lot of fun. But yeah, we're doing where you get to vote on, who versus who for all of that. Whichever
Mhm.
cryptids get the most votes out of the whole month, right?
Mhm.
We're going to be doing prom king and queen for the cryptids. So we're gonna have runner-ups in the very end, and on the next Beer Booze Boogeyman episode, we're going to be having a little prom night for them, to finish up the
Yeah.
school year. Yeah.
Some
So
dancing. 6
the
inches
rules
apart.
are we're making shit up as we go, but
Mhm.
this is America. And that's what you do. But name a
100%.
fair election. I challenge you.
Mhm.
Just saying.
King,
But
king and queen
but
of
yeah.
prom for cryptid. That'll be a fair election because we're going to be honest about our electoral votes. We're not putting them together because we
100%.
believe in democracy here.
Well, if you are ready,
So
my
you think.
friend, and so you think, if you are ready, my friend, I
I'm
am
ready.
ready.
Hit me with your best
All right.
shot.
Well, if you love watching bad people get into train wrecks in slow motion, this is your episode because today we're going to be covering an egotistical murderer and his potentially, though not legally, complicit girlfriend as they naively set sail in an attempt to reach and dock at a notoriously dangerous island. But, my future friends, please do not hit that like and subscribe if you don't enjoy bad jokes being made about bad people because that's exactly what we're planning to deliver to you today. This is the Palmyra Atoll Murders, Part 2, Knuck If You Buck. Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 134 of the Black Cat Report. My name is Gil, and joining me here today for this very misguided voyage, the only man who ever cooked pizza on L. Ron Hubbard's boat, Joey.
You know, he didn't like it either. Aaron Hubbard did not like it, and I was like, "You don't like pizza?" He didn't even like pizza, but he just asked me to do it, and I was like, "Why would you ask me to do that?" And he just said, "Yes, you could read this book."
Is this Thetan free? You're like, I thought you
Yeah,
said gluten free. No, Thetan free, and threw it back in your face. It was a
yeah.
whole
He's
kerfluffle.
he's actually gluten free. Two, he just threw it in my face because it was, it was fine. And
Yeah.
before you ask me why I'm dressed like this, Gil, uh, I know that you were thinking about it when I told you earlier. I wanted to get, we talked about that they're getting on a voyage. From where we last off, they were
Yeah.
getting on the voyage. They're just starting. They're on their boat. They had their three dogs with them. I just
Mhm.
wanted to get in that moment, and I was like, man, how could I feel this better? And so I just decided,
Mhm.
what would I get? What would I wear on a boat? Obviously, you got your towel. This is a towel I got
Mhm.
from Italy. It's my Italia.
Mhm.
Got my glasses on
Mhm.
because I was like, obviously you don't want to go blind while you're out there.
Island
See
vibin'.
blindness,
Yeah.
island vibing, and my nice,
Here.
shirt. I'm also trying
I
to
love
cover
it.
over my really bad suntan, redneck suntan burns. So I'm also doing that. So
At this
that's the
point, it's
reason.
pretty much a sun tattoo. That's what you've got. You have a
Mm-hmm.
full body sun tattoo.
Sun
Um,
too. Yep.
well, sir, just the same as part one of the series, our main source for this episode will be the sometimes erotically written, very girthy book titled "And the Sea Will Tell" by Vincent Bugliosi.
The name.
That shit.
Great.
Look at that. Could
Mm-hmm.
start a second job as an exterminator with this book. Now, as for a recap of part one, I did my worst to include reminders of events in the telling of part two. So, without further ado, let's get this chaos cruise going.
Yep. I'm starting the engine. We're in the engine. We're in the.
Boat dogs?
I
That's not a flag.
I can't I can't make the wind sound. How's the wind sound when it's going by your face? When you're on the.
You're in
It's more like.
you're in front of a microphone.
Yeah,
Um,
you plug the microphone. Yeah, it just sounds like. Well, I mean, what is it? It's like when you're on the boat and you're like, you're trying to talk to the person next to you, and you're just like, instead of being like, oh, it's really like nice chill time, you're just like, hey, do you remember that one thing? And they're like, what? This is what the story is going to be about. It's a lot of yelling at each other over top of it.
this is not accurate at all. Joey has no idea what he's talking
I
about.
read the script. I read the script, and this is
No,
exactly
you
what's in it.
didn't.
Yes, I did. I know where you hide your scripts.
People don't understand, but I send Joey a dummy script every episode.
Hmm. Yeah, and then I'm just like, wait a second. I thought we were talking about the dogs of the
This
devil.
has
I don't
nothing
know.
to do with Barney.
Yeah, yeah.
Um,
That was a good script, though. Anyways,
well, the mistakes began immediately when the Iola launched from the shores of Kauai on June 1st, 1974. After months of preparation, patches, library fees, and dodgy legal decisions, Buck and Stephanie had finally managed to load up the ship's cabin with everything they thought they would need in order to start a new life as island fugitives. Their plan was simple: reach Palmyra, grow a crap ton of weed, and sell it to two friends who would swing by the island at the end of August with fresh supplies.
solid plan.
Reread that. Their plan was simple: reach Palmyra, grow a crap ton of weed, and sell it to two friends who would swing by the island at the end of August with fresh supplies and a plan to smuggle the stash into Hawaii. It was
Solid
a
plan.
bulletproof strategy, yet
Mhm.
somehow their weeks of reading beginners' guides to sailing didn't come close to preparing them for the harsh realities of life on the open seas. And so, fresh faced and bushy eyed, they set off at sunrise, and within hours of setting sail, the wind completely died, leaving the Iola awkwardly bobbing aimlessly in water just a few miles offshore.
I was thinking of names for their, like, celebrity couple names, and I was like, Buckany is definitely one of, like, the names I that was, rang to me, and then I was like, "But if they're gonna get stuck out in the water, Stuck. Stuck
Uh,
is their name.
Stuck, bro,
Stephanie
you
and
nailed
Buck.
it.
Yep,
Yes, that
yep.
was
Stuck is
that
their
is
name."
yes, that's their celebrity name is Stuck
Yep. Mhm.
to life.
Mhm.
But well, conscious of preserving the fuel they had brought with them, they decided against using their outboard motor, and the two would be kingpins, along with their three dogs, just sat there waiting for hours. They are right off the coast of Hawaii. This is the start of their trip. But as luck would have it, by that afternoon, the wind god smiled down upon them and picked up their sails, thrusting them towards their destination at a whopping 2 miles an hour. Truly breakneck speed.
That's huge speed on the ocean. I'm sure they were really crushing it. And what, they got 3,000 to go? They got 3,000 miles to go, or 1,500 to 3,000 miles? They'll be there in a couple
This
years.
is, and so with Hawaii now past the horizon and the vast open ocean all around them, Buck committed his first major mistake as a rookie sailor when he assumed that less wind meant he should use less sails. And even further, he assumed that little wind meant you should use little sails.
Like, physically little sails, or just little bit of sails?
He only used the smallest sail on the ship.
That's buck
The
for you.
jib. So, we'll throw up photos of sailboats if y'all haven't looked at them in a while, but,
Mhm,
you're dealing with the main large sail, generally huge ass triangle that kinda goes from the I guess, the first, like, third of the ship all the way back covering the last 2 thirds of the ship, and then you
mhm.
have, a small jib, which is the very tiny front triangle sail that covers the first third of the ship, the front of the ship. The jib, because this is a nautical episode, the jib
Mhm,
is mostly used for kind of, like, pulling and steering in specific directions, right? It's really
mhm.
kind of like pushing, while the main back sail, that's your horsepower. Like,
That's
that's really
thrust.
giving
That's your
you. Yeah,
thrust. Yeah.
that's it, and his decision, um well, we'll get into that here in just a moment, but it was a beautiful decision.
Little sails, little wind. Noted.
Little s little wind, little sail. It makes
Mhm.
sense in someone's head.
And
Um,
Buck's
well,
head.
yeah. Well, as such, when this increasingly or sorry, well, as such, when this incredibly light breeze started blowing, Buck put down the mainsail and used the smaller jib, the little small sail up front. This decision led the Iola to moving in a jerking motion, similar to being in the car with someone who's learning how to drive clutch. More
Oh.
specifically, like when I turned my dad's head into a bobblehead when he was teaching me how to drive manual. But in that case, sorry, but in their case, while the Iola was jerking back and forth, it was also rocking left and right and up and down, a victim to the slow climbs and drops of every wave. This is the most uncomfortable possible. slow ass roller coaster you can
Those
imagine.
poor
Just
dogs too. The poor dogs
it's
that are
just
just,
like
oh my god. That's terrible.
so they went from complete stillness to being like
Almost complete stillness forward, but sideways and frontways,
the
yeah.
the opposite of complete stillness, but the exact the opposite of stillness, but still not
Yeah.
mind. They're going
It's
2
like my
miles an
life.
hour.
Yeah.
They are jerking left and right, up and down faster than they are moving forward.
Could anybody compare this to people's lives right now? You're just not moving forward, but we are going back and forth and like just a crazy, insane rocking motion.
That's a great way to explain the news over the
Yes, yeah.
past,
It's like a rocking
well,
horse. Like
well,
if you go fast enough, you can move a tiny bit forward, but you're
but
literally just moving back and forth and you can move to the side.
but you're also going left and right, and
Yeah.
you're physically moving up and down, but
Hmm.
you're also falling to the side left and right.
It's the world's best, worst roller coaster.
Yeah,
Hmm.
well, oh, man, this journey is our entire episode, just a heads up.
I
Um,
love it. Yeah.
Again, people, y'all are gonna see in part 3, these motherfuckers are assholes, and, Buck is 100% a murderer. We're gonna make fun of their bad decisions.
And it's easy when they make such bad decisions.
You know? So,
Hmm.
well, as such was the case, seasickness set in immediately, most severely, with Buck, who, after barfing his guts out, went down below deck to try and sleep it off, while Stephanie was left on her own to steer the ship. The night passed with Buck only barely able to take the helm once and temporarily relieve the very exhausted, very paranoid Stephanie, who, for the majority of the night, was scared as hell to step away for even a moment. She was worried that some massive ship might not see them in the pitch black waters and squash their already damage prone Iola.
I don't think that's how that works, but
Sadly.
okay.
Yeah. Well, sadly, this brief respite would be a majority of all the sleep she would get over the coming weeks of the journey, as by the middle of the second day, Buck was completely obsessed with his new routine of waking up late, eating a literal boatload of food, feeding the fishes with the contents of his stomach, going
Ugh.
back to bed, waking up hours later, reading cheesy spy novels, eating more food, feeding more fishes, and then going back to sleep. Just a daily process of
Ugh.
rinse and repeat, all while tiny Stephanie sat white knuckles shaking at the helm with their 3 dogs running around barking nonstop, pooping and pissing all over the jerking, swaying, all always
Mhm.
partially sinking Iola. And I point out that she's tiny, not just for the imagery, but for the very real limitations she faced as the only one captaining damn ship. This was a huge issue. You see,
Yeah,
Stephanie
yeah.
was quite literally too small in strength and stature to hoist and handle some of the sails and rigging of the ship, meaning for the most part, whatever sail situation Buck set up between barfing and sleeping was what she would be stuck with for hours, regardless of the weather, the
Yeah.
wind, or lessons she was very quickly learning. She was stuck.
Yeah.
Just
She's literally in the
horrified.
middle of a shitstorm, because all the dogs pooping everywhere. But also, like, the crazy thing is, sh basically, in a sailboat, like, it's not always like you think of a boat, for the most part is like especially like cruise ship, it doesn't move. Like, it pretty much goes, like, straight, like, you
Yeah.
don't it doesn't tip much, that's the point of a huge ship. But a sailboat constantly moving, and especially because of the thing, but it's constantly like being on a side depending on where the wind is. So you're constantly also moving yourself to create weight balances on each side of the ship to make sure it doesn't either flip over or stuff like that. So she is also doing that while having to hold the steering wheel and the wheel, the ship's wheel, and then try to also, I mean, she can't, most of the time she probably was really was struggling to get some of the sales down if she could. She's like, I
She
have
couldn't.
to do it, but she couldn't.
She literally
So
couldn't.
it's just,
Yeah.
so she's just like, yeah, white knuckling. It's like, oh yeah, damn, poor
And the
Stephanie.
whole time,
She was
they're
stuck there.
going 2 miles an hour, rocking back and forth, left, right, up, down, side, side, and just jerking.
Mm-hmm.
Just fucking
Just doing the cha-cha slide all over the ship.
it's literally just being stuck in a car with somebody learning clutch for weeks,
Mm.
and they never get better. It's just
Ugh.
so
2 miles per hour.
this is
Just
rough.
literally
I
seeing the same island. You're like just seeing the same island, like literally in front of you at 2 miles per hour, and you're just like, that island really hasn't moved in like 2 days. You're just like,
is
it's
the
still
island
in front
moving?
of us.
I think the
Yeah,
island's moving. I
it's
don't
moving
think we
faster
are.
than us. Yeah,
Yeah.
Pangea moved faster than than their boat is moving
The
right now.
continental shelf is outrunning us right
Hmm.
now.
Yeah, it's just literally
But
getting closer to them. The island's getting closer to them faster than the boat's moving.
this is so
It's
this
bad.
is so this is
Yeah.
so bad,
I mean,
and
I'll
we
say
are
poor
only on
Stephanie.
page 2 of the script, y'all.
Yeah. Poor
Oh, yeah.
Stephanie.
No.
Yeah.
I mean, but, yeah, she might be complacent in some things later.
Well,
But
we
yeah,
talked
right
about it in
now,
our
poor
last episode.
Stephanie.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Poor Stephanie. Poor Stephanie. Well, okay. You see, well, so we just said this whole situation sucked. And
Hmm.
by her calculations, on a good day, they were only averaging 20 miles every 24 hours. Keep in mind, this is a 1,059 mile long journey. If they kept up at this pace, it would take 53 days instead of 5 to 7 days, which was the plan.
Damn.
It's so bad. It's
two
so bad. Well,
months.
now, other than being absolutely miserable this whole time,
Hmm.
this progress at a snail's pace was putting them at an even greater risk. One Stephanie had more than enough time to think over as she sat baking in the sun all day while below deck Buck slept in the Iola's cramped cabin.
BDB.
The issue was their rations. You see, while still
Mm.
in Hawaii, Stephanie had worked her butt off as a waitress at a tourist restaurant, saving up every dollar she could for their trip, while Buck had worked day and night repairing and re repairing the Iola. During this time, she had been the one in charge of planning and buying all the supplies for this trip, ultimately spending around $1,000, the equivalent today of over 6.5 grand, which is
Hmm.
no small sum. But here's the deal: this food had to last them for the trip to the island and for the time it would take to get a vegetable garden going once they got settled on the island. And a huge part of this strategy relied on saving this store bought food as long as possible by supplementing their diet with fresh seafood, something they were very confident they could do, as Buck had sworn to Stephanie he was a master fisherman. Now,
Mm.
why does all that matter? Well, the master fisherman absolutely sucked at fishing, which will become a common
Mm.
theme as the story involves. But
He was more
it's not just
masturbator.
that. Yeah. More immediate to their experience was Buck's obsession with some advice an old timer had given him, saying the best way to get over seasickness was to eat as much as possible. And so Stephanie sat there, sunburnt, her hair completely coated in sea salt, watching Buck repeatedly throw up their rations all day and all night long.
How
And
annoying.
to, and to make matters even worse, cracks and old leaks in the Iola opened up immediately after setting sail. The rocking and jerking motion, amplified by using the smaller jib, quickly weakened the fiberglass patches Buck had
Mhm.
made over the wooden hull. For anyone who caught part one of this series, you might remember me bringing this up as a big deal. Well, this is where it becomes a big deal.
Yeah, because he's an idiot.
Mhm. Yeah, 100%.
In more ways than one.
Uh,
You know that he was getting up like when she's sitting there white knuckling the thing. He comes up and he's just like eating a bag of Doritos, like their last bag of Doritos, and he's just like, "How far did we get today?" And she's just like looking at him with like these white knuckles on it, like just gripping hard, so
pissed,
angry. Like, is that
pissed as
the
hell.
last fucking bag of Doritos? He's like, "Oh yeah, I really need it to make sure my stomach gets settled." And she's like, "That is my favorite. That's Cooler Ranch Doritos." And I was trying to cool down later after you took your turn. She just fucking takes the wheel, like
Joey,
hulks it, takes the wheel and throws it into the water.
you are so far off from the truth, my friend. I know you and I would very righteously act in that way, but
Yeah. Hmm.
Stephanie,
She was a good
she's been with
soldier.
Buck for a while now.
Hmm.
She can deal with Buck. Well, back to the mainstay here. Now, with all these leaks bringing in water nonstop, they were forced to run the bilge pump daily, which meant their limited
Yep.
supply of fuel was being sucked up as fast as the Iola was taking on water. So now we're looking at a sinking ship, seasick crewmate, rapidly dwindling rations, and quickly growing piles of wet dog poo rolling around everywhere on a cramped boat that looks more like the inside of an unsecured U-Haul that just
Some nice
drove
poop soup.
through stop and go traffic on hills. Stuff is thrown everywhere. Read that again.
Mhm.
I need to replace the toner cartridge in my printer.
Yeah. So there's a crazy thing before you get into this. There's a crazy thing that they did back in the whaling days of like how to like cure seasickness, right? So this is an interesting thing. I heard this from the same podcast we listened to. They used to take a string tied to a piece of fat, and you'd swallow the fat. Like if you're seasick, you'd swallow the fat
Mhm.
and they just pull it right out of your throat. And they said that that stopped your seasickness. And if it didn't, you did it again and again and again until it stopped your seasickness. And to be fair, I don't think it did anything. I think they were just like, "No, I'm not seasick anymore."
Yeah, I think that was a great way to get people to shut up about being
Yeah,
seasick.
yeah. I think that was the whole point about stopping them, but, yeah, that was what the old whalers used to do, back in the day. Buck should have done that, and it would've shut him up.
Stephanie should have did that to Buck. Well,
Mhm,
reread that last line here.
mhm.
So now so now we're looking at a sinking ship, seasick crewmate, rapidly dwindling rations, and quickly growing piles of wet dog poo rolling around everywhere on a cramped boat that looks more like the inside of an unsecured U-Haul that just drove through stop and go traffic on hills, stuff thrown everywhere, and shit is fucked. But Joey, this is also an opportunity to give some solid life advice for any college kids moving out of their home for the first time this summer. Take it from your Uncle Gil in
Ready to go.
today's episode. sponsor, Buck's Fugitive Moving Services. Unless you want to see what your stuff looks like after it went through a blender, don't get the biggest rental truck just because it's cheaper. Get the one your stuff barely fits into so that everything doesn't get thrown around and broken. Always measure accordingly and always remember whether you're leaving home for the first time to pursue a degree and change the world for the better, or sailing to a deserted island to grow an assload of weed and dodge a bench warrant, Buck's Fugitive Moving Services has your back. Snug if you buck. Do 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 do.
Damn, that's a good little
Shing.
one. That's a good one. I think every episode you should create a new business.
I didn't create that. This is Buck's business, but
This
I
is
did
Bucks.
picture like
Mm.
piano, like do 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 do, wind chime, shing.
Yeah, yeah,
Like
yeah.
I
What's
hear it. I
crazy
hear it.
too is that the whole boat just became they just created poop soup on the boat. Basically is what it became, just dog poop
I
soup and puke.
I don't know for the life of me. There's
Ugh, I
only a
just
couple
take
moments where they actually bring up what the dogs are doing over this long, very long journey. There's only a couple moments that they actually bring up the dogs. I don't know what the fuck's going on with these dogs, but I
I
imagine
just
them just
imagine
being thrown back
uh,
and forth. And for reference here, I don't know why I didn't include it. There is an incredibly large lab, a massive
mm,
ass, basically fighting pit bull. Pit bull
mhm,
that's like the
strong.
1990s version of pit bulls that like the news tried to warn you about. That's this pit bull,
Mhm.
right? And then a very tiny little fluffy Pomeranian,
Aw.
just like I don't remember. Fuck, I'm totally blanking. I think its name is like Fluffer, or no, it's like it's Puffer. I think the Pomeranian's like the little white Pomeranian is literally just named like Puffer. It's just it's
Mm.
just
It
just
would
like
be
giant ass.
I can just
There is
imagine
shit
Stephanie
of
too.
every size flying
Yeah.
everywhere.
I can just imagine Stephanie trying to hold one wheel with the dog in the other hand, just like holding the puffer in the other arm, just trying to be in like, Puffer, are you okay? Ah, it's like puking everywhere. It's just like, oh my god, and it's this whole scene, terrible scene.
It was so fucked up about how these dogs ended up
The poor
on this
doggos.
yacht,
Mm-hmm.
right? Yeah, honestly, yeah, straight up, the poor dogs. Stephanie, before they left, Stephanie was like, "I have to take Puffer and Buck," and literally said, "Well, if you're taking Puffer, I'm taking my dogs." And she's like, "Puffer's like really tiny, and over the course of a year, eats like barely a pound of food
Mm-hmm.
and takes up no space, and like what the hell? This dog has no survival instincts." And he's like,
Yeah,
"Yep,
yeah.
taking my giant ass fucking untamed dogs with me." It was literally just like, "Well, if you're doing it, I'm doing it too." And that's why they have 3 dogs on the boat. Every fucking person that sees them with these dogs all says the same thing. "What the fuck are you doing with those dogs on the
The
boat?" Like,
poor dogs, yeah.
it is obvious animal abuse. I mean,
Yeah.
it's obvious animal, but like that's not a common thing to do.
Mm-hmm.
Not a good thing to do. And
Yeah.
as we'll see, it's not safe for anything, even the fucking boat, to be out there in these
Yeah, yeah.
waters. This is
Well, I mean,
pure endangerment.
you're calling it a yacht. I call it a yak. Yeah, because they're puking everywhere. They're
Where are the
yakking
crickets? Where
everywhere.
are the crickets?
Yeah,
No.
crickets. They're outside.
Well,
Even they
back to
won't
the
care.
mayhem, sir.
Hmm.
As I mentioned a moment ago, Stephanie was essentially glued to the helm 24/7, sleep deprived, surrounded by hot, wet, salty dog shit, and watching all their
The
carefully
dream.
laid plans get vomited overboard every hour on the hour. She was horrified and clearly the only one aware of how this situation was escalating. But she met the moment with the wisdom and patience of a saint and made the decision to start eating less in an attempt
Mm.
to slow down the loss of their rations. So, very quickly, into their whole So, very quickly into their trip, she was dealing with all of those other things and starving, living on just a couple pieces of toast with honey per day.
Mm-hmm.
And this is all within the first week. But that's not all because here comes a squall. It was around dusk on the sixth day of the voyage when Stephanie noticed what looked to be low lying, pitch black clouds approaching them head on. As the clouds quickly swarmed in, a wall of freezing cold wind bashed into the Iola with honestly the same heartlessness and intensity of walking through the front door of a Walmart in July. Pairing with the wind, Stephanie was nearly thrown into shock as an icy rain began pelting her hard as hail. These blasts of wind, reaching up to 54 miles an hour, were so intense she started having trouble breathing, saying the gusts knocked the wind out of her and then made it impossible for her to catch her breath. She was gasping for air, unable to move, and quickly on her way to experiencing hypothermia. At this point, Buck sprang into action, jumping up out of the cabin to close the door. That sorry, I know.
Go ahead. I'll wait. I'll wait. Go ahead.
At this point, Buck sprang into action, jumping up out of the cabin to close the door that was letting in waves of water splashing as it came over top of the boat. But once he got it latched, Stephanie heard an incredibly loud, dull thud as the shock of something heavy hitting the deck boomed across the boat. It was Buck, who, after securing the cabin door, was knocked almost unconscious when he immediately slipped and bashed his head against a safety rail.
Damn, dude. Buck got knucked, just like he said. Damn, what an idiot.
In the script, I literally, where is it at? I have a line. Fuck, I can't find it. It
It's
says
fine.
Joey joke in brackets. I was like,
Dude, he got knocked in the head and
he got knocked
can't
the
be more
fuck out
deserving.
by a safety rail.
But also, I thought for a second you were going to the point he heroically jumped up, closed the door, and stayed inside while she was upstairs. I thought that's where that was going and just like made her ride it out. But Stephanie did turn into a human sail that day. She felt the wind and helped it stop going forward as much. Yeah.
No, we are nowhere close to over, baby. Stephanie,
Yeah, yeah.
still stuck to the helm, grasping for air,
That's
leaned
their name.
over just in time to see Buck rolling across the deck and off the edge of the ship.
Good. Yes. Good.
She tied down the wheel and ran over to him, only to find he had been caught in cheap netting he'd wrapped around the boat to keep the dogs from sliding off. It then took a full minute for him to become conscious enough to untangle himself and climb back onto the boat.
Buck got
This
stuck.
had been such a fucking ordeal the whole time they had been sailing over this past week. She kept telling him over and over, if you're not going to wear a life vest when you're walking around on the deck, at least secure yourself to a harness.
You're
But
supposed to.
Buck,
Yes. Yes.
being that toxic John Wayne kind of motherfucker,
The
he was
worst.
like, it's real fucking easy, baby. If I fall off the boat, just throw me a life vest. To which she always replied, what if you're unconscious? And he always said, don't worry about that. So, in a fucked up way, he was kind of right because the cheap ass dog netting he had wrapped the entire outside of the ship with kind of saved it. I mean, it did
All right.
save him
You want
in
to
a
you
way
want
that
to
he was almost a fish stuck on the side of.
Gil, you are demeaning this obvious genius that he knowing his own stupidity His own stupidity. He
It was never
accidentally
a dogman.
no, he accidentally created something that helped himself out that he wasn't even planned for, because Buck is stupid. And you
Yes.
always, if there's a storm, it's known you harness yourself in if you're walking around. And still to this day, he should have stayed in the bottom of the boat. He should have just locked
Nuck,
the door and stayed down there.
Nuck if you buck. Nuck if you buck.
Exactly.
That's the theme here.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Stephanie should have just took care of him and just like kicked him off and just been like, oops.
Just slowly cut the netting. Um,
Yeah, yeah.
his stuff, and with a fresh black eye, he scowled at Stephanie and went below deck to lay back down. They're still in the middle of a storm,
That's good. That's
but
good.
the storm wasn't over, and the Iola was being pulled and jerked widely now by the towering waves and gale force winds against all fucking odds here. She mustered up the strength to pull down the small sail and quickly ran below deck to put on a rain suit and boots before tying herself to a safety line and
Yep.
crawling back to the wheel, where she attempted with all her might to straighten out the ship, which was now rocking almost entirely from side to side. The tops of the masts were now dipping into the water, dog
Ooh.
poo flying everywhere.
Everywhere. A literal
As
shitstorm.
she stood up, straining to straighten out the ship with seawater splashing into her mouth, her saintly patience finally snapped and she started screaming out, Buck! Buck! Get the Buck! God fucking damn it, Buck! Hearing this, I gotta fix my camera. Woo! Whoa.
Oh, whoa. The storm is
Good?
knocking
We're
your
good.
camera.
Well,
Mhm.
hearing this, he got out of bed and made his way to the helm, where it took both of them to straighten out their ship against the waves. And just like that, within moments of regaining control of the ship, the storm broke, waves cleared, and they were finally back on calm waters.
Mm.
They hugged and cried with joy before Buck went back down below deck and left Stephanie alone to steer for the rest of the night.
That makes sense. But you know when she's like, "Buck, get the fuck up here." He gets up and he's eating Cheetos and he's like, "What? What's going on? What's going
What?
on?"
I was getting to a good part, just holding up
Yeah,
a fucking
damn.
spot.
Yeah, he's watching on this phone. He's watching The Sopranos. Oh, damn, I'm at the last episode.
You know I love this part in the episode. It's like he's already
Yeah, yeah.
seen it 20 times.
Yeah. He gets to the end of the episode. He gets to the end of the last episode and he's just like, "God damn it. I guess we lost internet connection cuz the screen just turned black."
Told you, keep the ship straight. Yeah.
Yeah, come on.
There's just
God, man,
dog
it
shit
just want to
flying
punch
at
him.
dog shit and piss. She's been so locked to the fucking helm. And like
Mhm.
they're not really able to, like, she's not taking time during the day to slowly lower a bucket over the side and, you know, pull up some seawater and try to
Yeah,
rinse
wash
off that.
out.
She's
Mhm.
just scared as fuck, holding
Mhm.
on to this. She zero experience going into this, steering a ship.
Yeah.
No fucking experience whatsoever. Buck's only sailing experience was when he helped his dad build riverboats. The farthest fucking thing from
Yeah.
what they're doing right now.
Yeah, they're way
It's
different.
just like, it's like, yeah, this one time I rode a bicycle, so getting in this fucking F1 should be easy. It's like,
Yep.
no, this is not the same
Oh yeah.
thing.
I don't know if
Um,
I don't know if I mentioned the last episode or this episode, but I'm going to mention it now. These people, what's going to be funny, they're still better at sailing and having boats than my aunt is. So, as she's sank 4 boats. 3, 4, 5 boats. In between 3 and 5 boats. So, they're still
is
better.
your aunt Committing insurance fraud? Never mind, we'll cut that, we'll cut that.
We
We'll
need to
pro
cut that. Yeah, I don't know. Is not putting a chapstick tube in the, like, plug of the boat, is that a considered insurance fraud because the chapstick tube is eaten away by salt?
I would say it's insurance fraud-esque. Um,
I would say innocent until proven guilty. I mean, is, uh is part of it, so
can't say
yeah.
guilty without Gil, and I'm calling it.
Mhm.
Now
Exactly. And spilling the tea.
I was
Badumts.
gonna there's this long-standing joke, we're gonna cut this. There's this long-standing joke, of, like, having unregistered firearms where you tell the
Is
ATF,
is
you're like,
that a
"I
joke?
lost those in a boating accident." And I almost made that joke about your aunt, but then I realized that her whole gig is boating accidents.
Yeah, no, that's
So
just
I
normal
was
for her. She was actually
um,
getting paid to do that for people. She just went out there. I loaned it to her, and then they
all
just
of those
drop
folks
in.
with guns were telling the truth. It was just your aunt
Yeah, it
driving
was just
every
my
one
aunt.
of these.
Yeah, she was just taking them on the boat, and then they just got thrown into the water. Yeah, you know.
Never gonna make it to the range. We're never gonna make it. Well,
Yeah, yeah.
it gets so hot in the studio so fast. Do you see this? I've had the
Hmm.
AC running for hours before the show. This is I'm gonna die like this. Well, back to the script. They hugged
Back.
and cried with joy before Buck went back below deck and left Stephanie alone to steer for the rest of the night. Now, the next day marked 1 week since the start of their voyage, and to add to their growing list of problems, Stephanie had finally come to terms with the fact they had literally no clue where they were. You
No
see,
GPS, I guess.
when they originally began making their plans to travel to Palmyra, Stephanie had volunteered to be the navigator, studying as much as possible in the very little free time she had between long shifts of the restaurant. For
Hmm.
her, the months before their departure was a nonstop crash course in trying to learn how someone positions themselves at sea. She was fully aware this whole damn time how serious this was because every book, reference, and conversation that came up around navigating to Palmyra all came with the same warning. Getting to that tiny island in the middle of the ocean is not only challenging, but damn near impossible, even for the most seasoned of navigators.
Hmm.
To truly put this difficulty, right, of achieving this feat into perspective,
Yeah.
for you to even see this small strip of low-lying land, you would have to be within 5 miles of it, meaning that from the moment you leave Hawaii and begin the over 1,000-mile trip to Palmyra, if you miscalculate your trajectory or position in the open ocean by even just a little bit, you'll likely end up passing right by it, crossing the equator, and be on an unknown path until you reach your next stop, Antarctica.
Perfect. Dead
It's
reckoning.
woo!
Errors compound on you, you know? Yeah.
This is such a Palmyra itself is such a dangerous place, not just for the
Mhm.
curse and for the fact that almost everybody that's ever found it has just crashed into it,
Yeah.
but for the fact that even trying to get there is such a pain in the ass.
Mhm.
Like, it is so hard. Like, at sea, when you're in the open ocean and your days or in this weeks or months away, depending on what you're in, when
Mhm.
your days or weeks, months away from any form of land, 5 miles is nothing.
Yeah, oh,
Like,
it's quick.
5
Yeah.
well, 5 miles in terms of, like, the curvature of the Earth sorry, flat earthers, but in terms of the curvature of the earth and dealing with that on the open
Yeah.
sea. And then even if you are within 5 miles, it might be a speck.
Mhm.
It might be a tiny speck. We're talking about
Yeah,
a
you won't.
spot where the highest, I think, of sea level, the highest piece of land is like 6 feet or something like that above sea
Yeah.
level.
Mhm.
You have tall trees and shit, but basically, you're not seeing it unless you
Yeah.
know for a fact it's right there. You're not fucking seeing it. This is such a pain
It's it's
to get to. And like
horrible.
you mentioned a moment
Yeah.
ago, this is before GPS or anything, bro.
Yep. Sextants, you know?
Like,
S
we're at the
it
what, 51-year anniversary at this point. This is all taking
Yeah.
place in June.
Yeah.
It's now
Perfect timing.
June
Perfect timing.
2025. So we're at the
Yeah.
50th anniversary of this shit, right?
Mhm.
This is nuts. This is absolutely fucking nuts. Well, with all that in mind, here's what went down. Every day at the same times, Stephanie would religiously follow every word of a book she'd brought with her titled 10 Easy Steps to Navigation.
That's the literal idea of navigating for dummies at this time, and it's just like you're betting your life on a book written for dummies on how to survive. Honestly, you know what though? You know what? I imagine I imagine that she was sitting there like trying to navigate, right? And she's like, "All right, did you bring the sextant?" She asked Buck, "Did you bring the sextant?" You know, because sextant's usually how you navigate. And he's just like, "Yeah, I brought it. Yeah, I brought it. Oh, can you get me the sextant?" And he goes into his bag and he just starts unrolling a
Just
tent,
pointing at
and
his
he's like,
crotch.
yeah, pointing at his crotch. And then it's just like, this no, I mean the real sextant. And he's just like, yeah, and it's in my pants. It's in my pants. She's like, no, a real sextant. Yeah. And then yeah, they just don't have a sextant, which is how you
Knuck if you
navigate.
buck.
Yep. This is how you navigate. And then God, he had the easiest
It's
job of all. He had to put the mixtapes together, and he couldn't even do that. The mixtape was just him going, "Yum, this is some good Cheetos," and that's just the
bro.
mixtape of the whole trip because she's
It,
navigating. So,
you're you're not far off from the truth. We'll see. We'll see. Anybody watching right now, live in the chat, should we keep that little rant going, or did everybody leave and they're like, too many sextant jokes? All right, you're
mm,
getting sextantists. Um,
mm-hmm. You're getting
it was
sexts.
it was terrible, terrible joke. Well,
Yeah, I mean, it couldn't be worse than
let
those
us know if we
comedians.
should keep it. All
Hmm.
all one or two of the folks watching this live, we love
Hmm.
you.
We
How did fruit flies? Oh, there's a spider. Okay,
do.
well,
Get him, Spider.
so with that in mind, here's what went down every day at the same times. Stephanie would religiously follow every word of a book she'd brought with her titled 10 Easy Steps to Navigation. And every day she would get a completely different location for where they were supposed to be
God.
at in the middle of the ocean. Some days they were 300 miles in one direction, other days 700 miles in the opposite direction. She was doing the exact same calculations each time, but the results looked more like she'd been throwing darts at a globe with a blindfold on. Joey,
God. Ugh.
this next part is about sea navigation. And spoiler, it's also a hint about the birthday gift I'm giving you tomorrow, buddy. I included this just because I know you're a fucking sea nerd and I love you, man. Happy
I
birthday
love.
week.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
25th. Thank you guys. I'll be 37. So send your birthday wishes if you want. You could. This episode, I think, will be out by Wednesday.
It's being live streamed right now. Real motherfuckers care.
They
So
know.
they know. They know. And
They
Joey,
know.
tell me
Mhm.
what kind of birthday gift you're going to get tomorrow. I'm giving it to you tomorrow.
Um, don't know.
I got to
You're
read
telling
through
me.
the
You're
quote.
telling me. Oh, okay.
I'm
Oh,
going to
sorry.
quote. I'm going to quote. I'm going to quote.
I thought you were trying
I
to make
forgot
me
to tell you I
guess.
was going to quote. No,
Okay,
no, no,
quote,
no.
quote,
Sorry.
quote. Go ahead. Go
Quote,
ahead.
quoting now from the book. Oh, whoa.
Mhm.
Nevertheless, she doggedly start over. Nevertheless, she doggedly followed the same routine each morning. She tied the wheel down, surveyed the horizon, and went below, tuning the AM FM transistor radio to the international channel that gives a soft tick ticking sound of Greenwich Mean Time. The seconds ticked off until a melodic recorded female voice said, "At the tone, meantime will be 21 hours and 10 minutes." In 3 or 4 seconds, a louder tick signaled the minute mark. At exactly that moment, Stephanie started the stopwatch and went topside, dutifully following the step by step instructions in her how to book. She raised the sextant and looked into the eyepiece that reflected through a tiny oval mirror the line of the horizon in relation to the position of the sun. Once fixed on that point, she checked the corresponding scale of a number. Once fixed on that point, she checked the corresponding scale of numbers on the bottom of the sextant, which gave her the angle between the horizon and the sun. Stephanie would then go below and use the navigation book to translate the sextant's. I'm going to read that again. Once fixed on that point, she checked the corresponding scale of numbers on the bottom of the sextant, which gave her the angle between the horizon and the sun. Stephanie would then go back below and use the navigation book to translate the sextant's number into a formula based on several factors, including the season of the year and the exact time of day. Finally, she drew a line of position, quote, on a chart of the Central Pacific. Quoting from the book, "Of course, this is not a line of position as much as a curve or circle of position. What you are measuring is the geographical position of the sun at the time of your sighting."
Mhm.
End quote from the book.
Mhm.
4 hours later, she repeated the process. She extended the first line of position until it met on the chart with the latest one. Where the two lines crossed, she was supposed to be there. Or, sorry, where the two lines crossed, reading from a book with shadows is hard. Where the two lines crossed was supposed to be their current position. But every time Stephanie saw the haywire result of her careful work staring up at her, she felt like throwing the sextant and book overboard. They were lost.
That's rational. That's rational. Just the
Yeah.
stuff that you use to measure, just get rid of it because you'll be able to find your way much better without a book and a sextant, which
Yeah.
is the only way you can figure out how to get there. I imagine that one of those times, just accidentally, she was right, but she was just like, God damn it, that's wrong, and she's like, we're just like outside of Hawaii, and she's like, that's not correct, we've gone way farther than that, and they're just like literally 5 feet outside of Hawaii, and it's like, oh no, that's the actual right. That's the
It's
actual
like,
right one.
"You're still in the pool at the Kauai YMCA. Could you
Yeah.
please leave?"
Please leave. There's poop everywhere.
They're just on MDA this whole time. This spoiler, this whole trip is them just high as fuck on their own drugs.
It's a
Um,
trip.
but
Mhm.
this is all a trip. Oh,
Mhm.
did you figure out what your gift was?
No, no idea. Is it boating for dummies? 10 to 10. I mean, I would love
That
that.
would be
I would
good.
probably need
I
that.
don't
That
know.
would be good.
I got you something
I want a
sexy for your
surprise.
birthday.
I want a surprise.
Too bad. I already told you.
I didn't know.
It's a sextant.
I did guess that. Yeah, I wanted
Yeah,
to
I
be
know. I know.
surprised, Gil. That's cool.
To
That is
them,
awesome. I love it.
those folks. Anyways, you're getting a
Yeah.
sextant tomorrow. I got you
Thank
something
you.
sexy for your birthday. But
Yeah, yeah.
yeah, I
I
was
just
like, I feel like
imagine,
Joey would appreciate this. And it comes
dude,
with a
it'll go
little
in the
coffin.
background. Oh hell yeah! It'll go in the background of my
Yeah.
like I'm just gonna collect sea related nautical stuff and
Just
just put it in the background
random
of my
shit I gift you is going in the back.
dude. Yeah, I mean, once I move, I'm gonna start putting stuff up, and it's gonna get the treatment of the goat. The goat is gonna be up there, and then I'll have the sexton
As it
up
should
there.
be.
So as it should be, it'll be right above my shoulders, so it looks like I'm carrying all this weight, which is true. Carrying all this weight of this knowledge, you know.
Exactly. So this whole damn time, as they've been rocking and rolling, getting turned around, flipped sideways, and literal shit storms attacking them, their only form of true navigation has been a compass that they've been using to try and keep the ship pointed south. That's it. Otherwise, they have no clue where the fuck they're at this whole goddamn time.
Damn.
And again, they're trying to make a straight line, right? Trying to go straight down from Hawaii. They're off by 5 miles. Their next stop is Antarctica.
Yeah. Well, you can't double
This
back
is,
either on a sailboat. So it's like you can't
you don't know
turn
where you're at,
around. Yeah,
anyways.
yeah. You wouldn't be able to if you're off 5 miles, you wouldn't be able to see something that's like 5 above sea level or not above sea level at all. So,
With all that said, luck finally graced them on the 10th day. Stephanie woke up and had an epiphany. She had been using calculations in the book for sailing south of the equator. Hawaii and Palmyra Atoll are north of the equator, something you, my good friend Joey, so poignantly mentioned in a previous episode about Palmyra. Well,
mhm.
with this new revelation, she sprang out of bed, grabbed all the numbers she had recorded over the previous days, and ran out onto the deck to start recalculating their positions with the correct logarithms.
Good.
The numbers finally added up. And as it turned out, they were halfway to Palmyra. The two of them bursted with joy and began screaming with excitement, dog shit and all. They were just like, oh my, you know,
That's
nobody wanted
sheer.
to admit it.
Yeah, sheer buck luck. That's sheer buck
Yeah.
luck right there. Is that literally they are on they're like, man, we are not close to where we need to be. And it's like literally they're halfway there. And like, yo, that's like you driving, you forgetting how you get to a place and then you just taking the wrong turn, but somehow you end up on the right road. You're just like, you end up on the right road with the wrong navigational directions and you're like, what the hell? And you just get there and it's like, well, I guess the destination is better than the journey.
You know, it's whoa, oh, they're halfway there. Whoa, living on a prayer. But it's really,
Mhm.
whoa,
They
oh,
were.
living on a prayer. Oh, oh, we're halfway there. Like
Yeah,
the
yeah.
song was reversed to get around copyrights
Yeah.
of Stuck, Stephanie and Buck's story.
John
Honestly, I think
John
that's how
Buck
the song
Jovi.
was made.
John Buck Jovi. Um
So yes. um I have no John Bon Jovi jokes besides there was a really horrible sci-fi movie. It was like a sci-fi vampire movie. I think it was made for TV with John Bon Jovi. That's the only time I've cared for John Bon Jovi. Sorry, but he kind of feels like the Avril Lavigne of that generation. Uh, Attack me in the comments if I'm wrong, but he kind of gives Avril Lavigne vibes.
I mean, I will say Buck
Come
is
on.
wanted. Buck is wanted too. He's
No, I'm not
wanted dead
talking
or
about
alive.
Buck. I'm talking about
No,
oh
but I'm
god,
also
wow.
there.
Wow.
He's on a
All right,
he's on a he's on a horse of what is it styrofoam. So
you were pushing your birthday week, sir. I'm
I can make any
I'm
jokes I want. It's my birthday week. I can make all the
it's
jokes
your
I want.
birthday. It's your birthday week. It's your birthday week. I'm avoiding the cricket sound effects, but
No, go ahead. That's perfect. Birthday week is crickets.
the
That
most
is my life.
masochistic comedian in
Mm-hmm.
podcasting, Joey Lee. Um,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I made those people laugh on that trip. So.
well, behind the scenes, which you can catch
Yep.
on Patreon.
Mm-hmm.
Patreon.com/Black Cat Report, where you can get all the shit that if you're still listening to this weird little mix of this corner we have the entertainment internet. If you're still listening, just join us over there. Actually, we're really easy to
It's
talk to. And if you don't like things, if you do like things, you want to encourage things, you want to inspire things, go hit us up, dude. We're on 24/7. Pretty much we never sleep, which is
mm,
why our episodes sound like this. Well, with this new revelation, she sprang out of bed, grabbed all of the numbers she had recorded over the previous days, and ran out onto the deck to start recalculating their position with the correct logarithms. The numbers finally added up, and as it turned out, they were halfway to Palmyra. The two of them bursted with joy and began screaming with excitement. 3 days later, on the 13th day of their voyage, luck found them again. Kind of. It had taken almost 2 full weeks, but Buck was finally getting his sea legs and starting to help out more on the ship. Not to mention, they had finally started using both of the sails, which helped them move faster and stay more steady. I'm sure it's unrelated, but, anyways, all of a
mm-hmm.
sudden, while Stephanie was below deck, drafting up new estimates of their position, she heard Buck yell out for help. She ran topside and saw him struggling with this fishing line. Whatever it was,
Again.
it was bucking huge. Stephanie's
Mm-hmm.
face lit up. They were finally going to have something besides their rations. He yanked at it at just the right moment and pulled up a massive 30-pound tuna right onto the
Nice.
deck. That's fucking impressive.
That
But no,
is impressive.
scratch. That's bucking impressive. But
Bucking.
before the shock of what just happened could even set in, Buck shouted out, "Fuck the
His thumb?
Did the audio go through? I tried to
Yeah,
pull away
no,
from the
it
mic.
didn't. It didn't. No, do it again. Sorry.
The hook's in my thumb.
Oh my god, why? Why? Yeah.
Did that go through?
Yeah, why? Why did the hook get stuck? Why? I guess he's dumb. I guess he's dumb.
At some point between wrestling the fish on board and trying to hold it down, Buck had managed to get the giant deep sea fishing hook. These
It's
things are fucking
huge.
huge.
Mhm.
The giant deep sea fishing hook, barbs and all, almost entirely through his thumb.
Damn. You can't get that back out either. You got to cut the edge off. You got to snip it
It's
and
funny
take.
you should say that, Joey, because
Yep,
I'm getting
yep.
into details about what they had to do next.
Love
He
it.
paused for a moment and did what he had to do. He pushed the hook deeper into his thumb until it came out of the other side.
Mhm. Ugh.
Just stop, drop, open up shop. Think about for just a moment getting a hook shoved
No.
into your thumb, honestly, any part of your thumb, and getting to that point where you realize the only fucking way you're dealing with this is if you pierce it all the way the fuck through. Find a part of your thumb where it's more convenient than others. I dare you. I thought about this
Mm,
just
yeah, you can't.
yesterday. There's not a single part of your thumb where it's more
No.
convenient to shove a hook
I
through.
hope he
Now, if it
also
was my
cut.
pinky, I'd be like, I think like the second part.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Maybe first, but second part for sure. You just go through, shove it through.
Yeah.
First part, eh, yeah. Anyways, I
I
would
hope
have
he cut the
preferences.
string. I hope he cut the string too, instead of
Oh
just
no,
like and then
now the
kept.
fish is now the
Yeah.
fish is catching him.
Yeah, yeah. And the strings, the strings still in his hand. He's like, "Why won't this come out?" And he just keeps pulling the string through his finger,
No,
the hole in his finger.
fuck. Well, point is, this is
It's bad.
this is bad. This
Mhm.
is bad. Like you and I, Joey, we watched and a few folks that are watching right now. We watched hair extensions EXT
Ugh.
on bootleg movie
Ugh.
night. There's a certain kind of like
Ugh.
morphology is not the right word, but it's what I'm going with for the vibe. There's a
Ugh.
certain morphology of feelings, of nerve
Yeah.
feelings that
Mm.
just kind of ugh. You know what I'm saying? We cover a lot
Yeah,
of
like
weird
that.
shit. Not a lot of
The hair
I
out of
don't
the
think since the
eyes was
Dr.
awful.
Brinkley episode where it was talking about the balls, you know what I'm
Oh,
saying? But the hair coming out of
yeah,
the
yeah,
eyelids or
yeah.
like fucking hair growing underneath your fingernails or out of your tongue, you know what I'm saying? Like
Ooh, yeah.
there's certain things. A deep sea fishing hook. I'm making a big deal out of this. I don't give a fuck if
You
people are
are.
like, that's
I
not
can
a
see
big
it.
deal.
Yeah,
Okay,
you
why
are
have
making a
you
big
made
deal.
it this far? I'm making a big deal. A deep sea fishing hook through your fucking thumb. You have to shove it through, barbs and all, baby.
Mhm.
Shove it deeper into it. At this fucking point, she told Stephanie to get out a metal file and had her start filing off the barbs of the hook still stuck in his fucking thumb.
Why? I'm not gonna ask.
How are you going to pull it out? If you look at a deep sea hook back up near the eye, there's a couple barbs. Back
Yep.
down where the actual lower part of the J of the
Yeah,
hook,
there's barbs.
there's big barbs. Doesn't matter which way you do it, you gotta get rid of the barbs somewhere.
For
Kind
sure.
of. You should probably not listen to the person with a fishing hook who's in shock. Um, uh, you should probably not listen to the person with a fishing hook through their thumb who's in shock about how to respond to a situation. Key point here. Anyways, she started filing off the barbs. With each stroke, more and more blood began gushing out of his thumb until finally they gave up. Buck took out a pair of pliers and snapped off the end of the hook before grabbing it by himself, grabbing it by the eye and yanking the whole fucking thing out of his thumb.
Wow. So
Woo, baby.
so
That sounds
they
so
should have
bad.
cut it off anyways. That should have been the first reaction. Steph, I mean, I know it's a crazy thing to do. You don't file it down because you're as I don't know why I'm trying to make sense of this because it doesn't make
Re,
sense and it's
re,
stupid.
re,
Yeah,
just
you're filing it
against
and
it.
it just keeps moving in their thumb. And so instead of just
Yeah.
taking like which they should have took, not bolt cutters, you don't even need that for a deep sea hook. You could just use like some kind of wire cutters, which would probably work, which you should be
Yeah, they just
bringing.
use pliers.
Yeah.
They just use
And then
pliers. They just use
yeah,
pliers. But yeah.
and cut it at the top, and that way you literally just pull it out right above where the thing is, and you can just pull it out on the bottom. I mean, if I'm wrong,
Yeah.
send it to us. If you know how to actually do it, send it to us at contact@blackcat.report on through email. Send us
Yeah.
how to actually do it because that's something interesting. That's first aid to know.
Yeah. All I know, next time I go fishing, might be a while. I haven't gone fishing in a long time. Next time I go fishing, I'm wearing gloves.
Good idea. Which they
This
should
this
be doing too.
this 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 taught me you should wear gloves. You should wear
Yeah.
gloves, you know? At least in these kind of situations. This sounds horrible.
Mhm.
Anywho, days would pass, some with more progress than others. Their trip, right, that was supposed to take only a week maximum, was now getting closer to 3. But on the morning of June 19th, Stephanie bursted out of the cabin and proclaimed that by 3 p.m. that evening, they will be seeing Palmyra Atoll on the horizon. Having been eating better and getting regular sleep, she was now confident as a navigator and knew for a fact that if they could hold their current speed, they were only hours away from their
Nice.
destination.
Cool. Finally.
Sure enough, dude, yeah, no, legit.
Mhm.
Sure enough, she was bucking right. By 4:15 p.m. early that same evening, Buck heard her crying out from the helm, "Land ho! Land ho!"
And he was like, "Where? I don't see
Everyone,
her."
dogs included, began barking and yelling out with excitement. They busted out from and had started toasting, made love, all that fucking jazz, right? But as we know from episode 131, when we covered the very colorful history of Palmyra, reaching the island is only half the battle.
Mhm.
The real danger of Palmyra is the intense, often deadly coral reefs surrounding it, acting
Yep.
like a crown of jagged thorns stretching out from the island. The only way to dock on its shore is to carefully navigate through a very narrow channel that the U.S. Army had blasted into the coral on the island's western side
Mhm.
way back during World War II. Stephanie and Buck both knew this from their research into the island. Thank you,
Yeah. That's good.
Hawaii Public Libraries. And
Mhm.
so
Yeah, that's good.
they approached from the north and began a very, very slow, tedious process of circling down to the island's left side from,
Mhm.
the direction they were coming from. Anyways, there was a catch, of course.
For sure.
Once they got close to the mouth of the channel, they realized the outboard motor they had been attempting to preserve fuel for this entire time, specifically for this moment
Yeah.
when they needed to carefully thread the eye of a needle. Well, the motor was completely frozen up. Out of sheer bucking laziness, Buck had left the motor sitting out in the open on the ship's deck this whole fucking time, leaving it exposed to the sea salt and elements. It was completely bricked.
It's yeah, rusted.
It was
Yep.
one of those things over these past 2, almost 3 weeks where he's like, I'll get it tomorrow. I'll
Yeah,
get it
yeah.
tomorrow.
Mhm.
In the meantime, he's like, what happens on page 47? Like he
Yeah,
wasn't
yeah, yeah.
doing there's nothing else to do. Just move it. Honestly,
Mhm.
just put a fucking tarp over it. Put a bucking tarp over it.
Yep.
Like anything else, just keep the dog poo and sea salt off of it.
Mhm.
Doesn't matter. The one time they need this bucking motor, um, frozen, bricked up. All their reserves of fuel worthless,
Yeah.
pointless.
Doesn't matter. Yep.
All the Everything sucks. So
They could have just used the motor to get there faster. If they had did not thought of
would have
they
had
thought
a
about that.
a lot better start. I mean, part of the reason of having that motor when you don't have a boat that's sinking constantly is
Yeah.
you hit you hit the dundrels, you hit the areas where there's literally no wind. That's not how the wind
Yeah.
currents work. They're dead zones in the ocean for sailboats.
Hmm.
You turn on your motor and you blip 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 blip
You
blip
get
blip
out of
blip
it.
blip blip
Yeah.
blip 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 blip
Yep.
blip 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 blip
That's what a
blip,
motor sounds
you know,
like.
and
Yes.
you just slowly work through it until
Hmm.
eventually, you get there.
Yeah. Yeah. That's kind of how it works. Is you use it as a supplement. It's a supplement. Your motor is
Backup.
a
It's a
supplement to
backup.
your
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, to your sail.
Your sales, yeah. Or when you need to go down a very narrow channel or into a harbor or some sort of docking situation and
Hmm.
relying on wind and swaying left and right and kind of zigzagging all over the fucking place isn't the best idea. You need precision.
Hmm.
Well, what should have been a very careful, very slow motorized approach to the island's internal lagoon now had to be done through sailing. They were at the whim of the wind and now just floating around the island. I'm going to quote now from the ship's logs that Stephanie had been keeping this whole damn time. Keep in mind, they left Hawaii on June 1st. Quote, June 19th. Land ho! At 4:15 p.m., we spotted Palmyra off our port side. Wind very light. Unable to make landfall before dark. Headed east. Strong winds all night. Then becalmed. June 20th. Spotted Palmyra again this morning. Dead west. Winds very light. Very frustrating. Rain squalls and enough wind to get us just about where we were yesterday at this time. But then the wind ceased. So near, yet so far away. June 21st.
God, a
The
little
winds
farther
were
away.
light last night and are brisk today. We are having trouble relocating the island.
Oh my god.
June 22nd.
Oh my god. 3 days
June
within view of
June
the island.
22nd. Remember, these people are murderers. This is why we're making fun of them.
Yeah, yeah,
June
for sure.
22nd. Couldn't find her. Lowered all sails last night. No wind through today. Reading. Took sights. June 23rd.
God,
Fair
Jesus.
trade winds. Hoisted all sails and went in pursuit of our island. Re-land ho at 12:30, giving us plenty of time to gain anchorage. For entry, we're hoping for a southeast wind. We are off southwest of shore. Saw a light on the island at night. Possibly another boat? Question mark.
Mm.
June 24th. So nice to wake up and have the island right there in front of us.
But unable to get there.
June 25th.
Good
Another
God.
day of
Okay. God.
June
26 days.
25th.
26 days. What was supposed to be 5 to 7 days. Okay. Sorry. Go ahead.
You're so right. You're so fucking right. June 25th. Another day of reading. Strong northeastern winds continue. June
Oh
26th.
my God. Okay, now. Please get there. Just fucking get there. This is just like the
I
end of The Sopranos, the last season. It's like by the time you're halfway through the season, you're just like, just please fucking end. I don't care if he dies or lives. Just end. You're in episode 20 and there's 23 episodes in the season. You're just like, this doesn't make sense. Just fucking end. God.
haven't even got honestly, the murder is my patience. June
Yes.
26th. Buck caught two big fish this morning, soaked them in brine, and hung them out to dry. Will use for bait. A family of manta rays came scouting their dinner. Didn't see Steve Irwin. Still Northeast
God,
trades. Still waiting and reading. I made up one part of that.
yeah,
Also,
yeah.
shout out Steve Irwin. I still love you, bud.
Much love.
Now, end quote.
God.
They got there on the 19th. That last reading from the logs was June 26th.
7 days. 7 days. Almost as long as the ring. They would have died if they watched the ring on the day they got there. They would have died before they got to the island.
Buck just came up and he's like, wait a second. We can't go to shore yet. I just watched some crazy shit. Hey, hold on.
Yeah.
This motor doesn't work.
Yeah, hold on.
No,
This motor
but
doesn't work.
the southeast wind finally came on the morning of the 27th. 8 days after first reaching the island, the couple both shot out of bed, raised the sails, and ran to the helm, took the wheel, got the ship lined up to enter the channel, and the wind died.
God.
Heartbroken and
June 28th.
expressionless, they were heartbroken and expressionless. They were now slowly drifting backwards in the water. But before it was so bad that they got into the channel and the natural flow out of the lagoon started
Pushed them
pushing
away.
them backward.
They just sat there watching their dreams float away as they're into it. Just I can see their faces and they're just like so excited. They got big fish, and then they're in there and
Stephanie,
just slowly floats away,
they were
just like their
having like
dreams.
arguments about like should we just use the fucking rowboats and abandon all of our
Use the
supplies and
oars.
everything.
Yeah. Use the oars. Figure it out. Like
Heartbroken and expressionless, they were now slowly drifting backwards in the water, but before they could even let out a sigh, they heard a crunch. The ship had backed into a reef.
good. At least they stopped them.
Buck didn't hesitate. He straight up, just like this is the one thing that he's been good at, honestly, this whole fucking time, this whole bucking time, is
Mhm.
when there's like a very extreme moment, he snaps into action. Maybe it was all of his time at San Quentin. I don't know. But the point is, Buck didn't hesitate and he just straight up dived off the edge of the ship. No look. He swam down below the boat and started checking where they had made impact with the coral. Everything seemed to be fine, luckily for them. Here's the thing, the Iola, frisky in terms of constantly wanting to self end themselves, right?
Yeah, yeah.
But but the lowest portion, very lowest portion of the build of the Iola, its hull had been cast iron plated to protect it specifically
Mhm.
from situations like this. Buck swam back up to the surface to catch his breath, took another huge gulp of air, and dove back down to get a closer look. And that's when he realized he wasn't alone. Their new neighbors had come out to see what all the commotion was, and staring right back at him was a 6-foot black tip reef shark.
Nice.
Buck flew out of the water like a Looney Tunes character, barely making it up the side of the Iola before the shark had a chance to turn him into a Bucky snack.
Into chum.
And it was about that time the couple heard off in the distance a middle aged man yell out from the channel, "Ahoy! Need some help?" There were a couple of small motorized boats approaching the Iola. Stephanie quickly pleaded back to them, "Dear God, yes!" While Buck stood silently next to her. The helpful strangers attached rope to the bow and began taxiing the Iola through Palmyra's notorious channel. As they were slowly brought into the island's protected lagoon, Buck leaned over to Stephanie and whispered, "Remember, my name is Roy Allen. Don't slip up." To which Stephanie replied, "Okay, Roy. Um, but what are you gonna do about that big old tattoo that says Buck on your arm?" And that's where we'll pick back up next week with the Palmyra Atoll Murders Part 3.
Today's. Dang. That boat should be called The Art of Harry Carey. Harry Carey. Instead of.
Aw, I love Harry Carey. Harry Carey in the
Oh, but I
chat.
mean Harry Carey. Like killing yourself. The boat is just going to be committing. The boat tried to commit seppuku on itself.
Well, my good brother Joey, whose birthday week it is, as always, my friend, we gotta give some extra special shout-outs to all of our incredibly awesome crewmates over on the Black Cat Report Patreon. My friend, make the music hit. I'm talking Bud, Don, Thomas, Little Mystery, Bob, Betsbay, Lucas, Tim, Deep, Max, Ian, Morgan, Dragonpaw from the Starblood Chronicles. I fucked that up. Dragonpaw from the Starblood Chronicles podcast. Tim Miller from Miller's Monsters. Gavin, fearlessly the chicken called Rochelle. Hey, Jake, Jack, Yellow Bear. Alyssa, Green, Michael Extreme, Kristen, from the Paranormal World podcast, James, and our lead navigator for this very chaotic voyage, producer, albeit pretty, Joey. Give me a big hit. Yeah. You tell everyone they must go. They want to join this crew. Wait.
Yes. Please hit us up at patreon.com/blackcatreport. Please go on there. We got so much free stuff. It's awesome. You'll get Cup of Joey. You'll get the behind-the-scenes stuff that me and Gil do after every episode. We do nice where we talk, we make more jokes. You get the coolest things. You get some extra stuff for next week. You get all the cool stuff. It's free. And you see Gil fall over there and lose his balance, just like the boats and the two Buck and Stephanie. So, guess what? We will see you next week.
Now, if y'all have made it this far, first off, hell yeah. You're
Congratulations.
awesome. Second off, in exchange for all the work that we've put into this episode, we sincerely appreciate if you traded us just a moment to rate and review the show wherever you're listening to this. Or even, honestly, just give us a thumbs up. Leave a comment. That's all we're asking. You made it this far. You spent a lot of time on this. Even if you don't like it, please appreciate the effort. We love you all. Joe, would you agree? agree?
We
Do we
do.
love everyone?
We do. We love them.
Now, with that said, my friend, bye.
Bye.